Well, good morning, church. It is Wednesday, Holy Week leading up to Resurrection Sunday. I hope you're getting excited. I hope there is an anticipation building in your heart. There is in mine. Resurrection Sunday is the pinnacle celebration in the life of the church. This is it. This is what we are about. And it is going to be great to worship together, to continue to praise our God in spite of everything that's going on, to be reminded again of His overarching plan and His goodness to us and the confidence we have in our salvation. And I'll pick up on that a little bit, looking at Wednesday in Scripture, what happened in Jesus' life in this week leading up to the crucifixion and the resurrection. And the answer is not much. Scripture is pretty much silent. It is silent on what Jesus was doing that day. Not surprising after the day he had Tuesday, the volume of teaching, the way that he got berated and questioned by the Pharisees. Seems that Wednesday he rested. But Luke 22 tells us this: "Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was one of the number of the 12, and he went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them. And they were glad and agreed to give him money, and so he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd." Judas, one of the close 12. Of course, his name now just makes us think of betrayal, but they trusted him. Nobody knew, nobody saw this coming at the Last Supper when Jesus says, "One of you will betray me." Their question was not, "It's Judas, right?" It was, "Not me, Lord," right? Nobody saw this coming. This was absolute deepest betrayal by one of his closest friends. And yet, it's important as we approach Good Friday and the crucifixion to remember Jesus is not the victim of circumstance here. Jesus is not getting caught up in this haphazardly and unwittingly and without knowledge. Jesus said, John 6:7, "I have chosen you, and yet one of you is the devil." He knew what he was doing. John 10:18, Jesus said, "No one takes my life from me. I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to take it up again." And so at the Last Supper, as Jesus is saying, "One of you will betray me," he looks at Judas and he says, "Go and do what you're going to do." Jesus' death, yes, in many ways we could say that it's tragic. It's the crucifixion, the murder of the perfect Son of God, and yet it was his plan. Jesus had set his face to go to Jerusalem, to go to his death. This is exactly what God had ordained. This is exactly what he came to do, and he is resolutely moving toward that. And so don't buy into this idea of poor Jesus. Now, we have a victor Jesus who went to the cross on our behalf intentionally, knowingly, willfully. It was done to him exactly as the Lord had predestined to do. Now, it doesn't mean that Pilate and the Pharisees and Judas are not condemnable for what they did and accountable for what they did. But this was the Lord's plan from the beginning, and he is carrying out exactly what he planned to do. This is our sovereign God, working through evil, working through wicked circumstances to bring about his glory and his great plan. And he continues to work that way today. If the crucifixion of the perfect Son of God could be used for the greatest good the world would ever see, how much more the trials and tribulations that come in our lives, the problems that we face. God is at work in and through all of it, victoriously working for the good of his people in love and with a perfect plan. So I love you, church. Continue to pray for you, and looking forward to celebrating the empty tomb with you this Sunday. See you tomorrow.